and other issues affecting Liberia and the diaspora Liberian communities.
I did not expect to even make it to Hollywood.
Join Cyrus McGee and Nathan Charles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when the issues of Liberia hit the news.
What is it that we, the Liberian people, want?
The Liberian communities in the diasporas are not left out. That's why Diaspora's Talk is back on your screens on Kmtv.
In fact, the United Party is not cohesive.
Be it social, political, economic, and other issues affecting Liberia and the diaspora Liberian communities.
I did not expect to even make it to Hollywood.
Join Cyrus McGee and Nathan Charles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on Kmtv, Facebook, and YouTube.
I want to be arrested in the midst of my people.
As they discuss the issues, blending the voices from Liberia and the diaspora Liberian communities.
The Liberian Business Association in the diaspora should be used as a vehicle for economic development in Liberia because no country can develop without a diaspora impact.
For sponsorship, call cell numbers 612-806-5896, 816-433-3979, or better still, email us at usakmtv@gmail.com. Diaspora Talk, come this out. And I tell you, good afternoon from Brooklyn Center in Minnesota. I'd like to say welcome to this special edition of Diaspora Talk here on Kmtv, Liberia's premier online television. We are everywhere. That's why we are right here on this wonderful Monday. It's special. It's not going to be a very, very lengthy one, as you know. Just on the brink of President George Weah's 6th annual address to the national legislature, by extension to the people of Liberia, through members of the 54th legislature. 3 hours and 26 minutes of talking, covering his legislative agenda, what his government has done over the years, especially last year, but then cataloging, his 5 years, 5+ years in power, and then ending with that very, very, very controversial. Somebody would say something that blew the room off, announcing that he's coming back to the people of Liberia for a second term mandate. I'm here with my colleagues, Nathan Charles. Together, we're going to be running on here, looking at few points, from the State of the Nation address of President George Weah. Nathan, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be back again after sitting the Congo say on your bunga.
Sitting on your behind all the long time to listen to, the president's address.
Most of the famous things we have been hearing, and things that we wanted to hear but did not hear, and things that we also wanted to hear but we heard them. So it has been a mixed reaction from where you sit on the bench. So some, like from the audience there in the rotundum, in the John Chambers, you saw the impression, the physical expression of people, and our Liberians who are on social media have been giving their own reaction.
Yeah, there have been a lot of reactions on social media so far. So if you are watching and wherever you find yourself, we're going to open it up. There's a link at the bottom of the page if you want to give your own, a view on the president's 6th annual address, his final address for his first term as president of the Republic of Liberia. There's a link at the bottom of the video. You can just click that link. You will have the opportunity, once you get in our backstage, we can bring you on to talk to us. Tell us, what do you think about President Weah's address? But quickly, Nathan, I know you will want to catalog or briefly look at, because it's a lot. It was a packed speech indeed, but there are some key points I know we can touch on this presentation.
Yes, basically, in accordance with our constitution, President Weah or any other president should deliver the State of the Nation address, informing lawmakers, the Liberian people, of policies, programs he or she have implemented. So President George Weah, he started out very clearly on his dream for Liberia, looking at promoting our democratic peace and recovery. He looked at how Liberia has gone from years of on civil rights, from the Accra Peace Agreement to the 2-decade. Liberia is currently enjoying 2 decades of peace, and he said that Liberia will continue to do that under his leadership. He pledged that commitment of having free, fair, and transparent election and allowing the voice of the Liberian people to prevail. Despite wherever it comes, he will accept the result. This is not his first time making such a revelation that he will uphold the election results. And looking at the number of legislation passed or enacted or sent into the House of Representatives or Senator under his leadership, he said over 200 acts were covering it were sent there. Looking at that issues, he named the Land Right Act. That's a major achievement. Some of the achievement of that act, the Local Government Act, was also an issue he raised. The issue of women having access to land, that's for under the Land Right Act, was also things President George Weah raised. Under the issue of education, health, rural agriculture, and the revenue, which is very much important to Liberia's development. He said 2019, two section, the second session of the National Legislature, 54 bills were sent to that place, and it's the highest. Because bills
in a single sitting, that is.
Yeah, it's because bills, these are new laws to help improve the living standard of the Liberian people. So there are other things that they needed to to implement. The issue of power theft, President George, we are also Senator Kave that LEC is losing millions of dollars in power theft. Commended the task force headed by Mary Bro, who is also ensuring that. The issue with reforming the anti-graft institutions. As you know, even after the program, you saw President Weah visiting or stopping over to the U.S. ambassador and those from the United States government, foreign partners who were at that area. He also pledged government's support towards that, because the U.S. government has been very clear for the government of Liberia to support the anti-graft institution. So President George Weah said they are have a lot of reforms. The LACC, the Liberia Anti-Corruption, they have amended them, gave them prosecuting power. He also spoke about the internal audit. As you know, they are responsible to checkmate government officials, government cycle. That's some of the things he also took. The issue of the central bank of the financial monetary policy. So basically, I don't know, you have some other issues, Cyrus, and I can come back, but there are a lot of things he spoke about.
There are
hopefully will be joining Martin Cuddy.
Yeah, Martin Cuddy is joining us. Let's see whether we can get him in. Martin, welcome.
How are you, gentlemen? It's good to join you from Ezra. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. God morning us, my man. God morning us.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
Johnny from Ezra, and we don't have a lot of time because President, we are already 8 hour time. You gotta pay us. We gotta pay for our time.
Even Tatane had an end.
Yeah, 3 hours 26 minutes. You listen to some of the issues. Nathan Ben cataloging the issue of inflation. He talked about from 30% to under 7%. Doing his first turn, stabilizing the exchange rate, increasing domestic revenue, the highest according to him, the highest new level. He blamed the pandemic for the slow the war in Ukraine, the pandemic. 15K civil servants are paid under the minimum wage. He's calling on the legislature now to make sure that nobody gets paid under the minimum wage of 150. So it's clear some of the things that the opposition has been preaching or talking about, people making below the belt, is very clear. He talk about his recommitment to the fight against corruption and many other. But Martin, it's good to have you. Let's hear you. Firstly, are you impressed by the presentation by President Weah?
Quite frankly, it is unfortunate that after almost 6 years, this same president comes back to us with nothing different but the same recitation. The speech delivered today to the Liberian people was a combination of his 2019 and 2020 State of the Nation address. And I'm going to provide some specific data to justify this conclusion. However, you've asked some specific questions, beginning with corruption No one needs to tell you that the Weah-led government is the most corrupt since 1847. No one needs to tell you. No one needs to deliver a speech to suggest or indicate that Mr. Weah has fought corruption head on. He hasn't. And the facts are just glaring. Look at the situation of the road fund. Why didn't he mention the road fund? The road fund was misapplied and misappropriated. Let's go to the 25 million United States dollars that was intended to mop up excess liquidity of Liberian dollars from the market. What happened to that? No accountability up to now. There are two different audit reports on that fund from the PRT and the GAC. If you read those two reports, they are very synonymous in terms of findings. What did those reports say? The reports said there have been huge discrepancies established. Funds cannot be accounted for. Who takes responsibility for that? Let's go to the 48 million COVID-19 fund. It is not still accounted for today. It is not still accounted for today. Look at the fund that were provided by our international partners during the COVID-19 for the distribution of rice and so forth. Nobody is accounting for that. Most importantly, the 16 missing billion, where is it? Why he couldn't talk about all of these incidents of corruption? The latest scandal, for example, the Besonga Gate, our national symbol, was auctioned on the world market. Our passport, not ordinary or official passport or diplomatic passport, were issued to criminals. Why didn't he mention the sanction of his officials, especially his allies, including Nathaniel McGill, Bill Twawe, Serena Seaforth, Prince Johnson, Vani Shema? These are sanctioned officials of his government. And why were they sanctioned? You know better than I do relative to why they were sanctioned. They were sanctioned because of corruption. Now, let me just state on this issue of corruption very clearly. The fight against corruption does not stop to just establishing anti-graft institutions. We are getting it wrong in Africa, especially Liberia. Because we have the LACC, we have the GAC, we have the RAA, we have the FIU, we have the good governance. That's not where the real fight of corruption begins or ends.
Where do you think?
It begins and ends with political will. And we have to be very clear about that. You can establish all the CCs, LACC, GAC, in as much the leader of the country has an affinity to corruption. Those institutions will remain toothless as they are now. Look at the budgetary appropriations of those anti-graft institutions, for example. Read through the numbers. I was just reading through them last night. How can you give, for example, the Anti-Corruption Commission in the country less than 3 million to fight corruption? Does that make sense to you? When you have over 103 public agencies and line ministries, how can 3 million even settle the issue of personnel cost, least to mention operations and other costs? Because fighting corruption is cost intensive.
Not just limiting, let's not just limit this to the fight against corruption. You know, there were other things that President Weah named. There were other achievements that he talked about. Do you think in your own mind there is nothing happening at all under the leadership of George Weah?
So let me deal with the issue of inflation, right? There's another lie that they have reduced inflation. Let me tell you what is happening from a technical background.
From 30% from 30% to under 7%.
Come on, that's a lie. Probably they don't know how to calculate the rate of inflation in an economy. But let me just tell you the basis for their poor conclusion relative to the fall in inflation or the fall in prices of basic commodities. Now, Liberia is at a point of receivership, right? The IMF runs two programs relative to receivership, right? These two programs are credit facilities given to countries that have weak BOT, balance of trade position, right? Or balance of payment position. So what usually happens is that our current position relative to the flow of foreign currency is very weak. We don't have enough foreign currencies to create stability between foreign currencies and local currencies. So we enrolled in these two programs at the IMF so the IMF can provide additional foreign currencies because the demand for foreign currency is high. And when that happens, the value of the local currency reduces. So this situation is about something called special drawing right, SDR. So we have the right to get some foreign currencies from the IMF, right, to create this kind of stability where you can have the pressure on the demand side for foreign currency dropping because of the inflow of foreign currencies in the economy. That's what happening exactly. Not necessarily that
is it not about some point working for Liberia?
No, it can't work for any country either. Your economy has to be productive. If you must deal with the situation of inflation, if you must deal with the situation of low growth, if you must deal with the situation of unemployment, those are the dangerous triplets that you must deal with. For you to deal with those things, your economy must be productive. You must have a productive economy, right? Our economy is import based. They are increasing tariff on basic goods and commodities. So how do you expect inflation to even fall? If I import certain quantity of goods and services in the country and you increase tariff on those goods and services, it means that the end consumers, would bear the full brunt because I will increase price as well.
So
So that's what's happening. And they are not reducing anything. They are not doing anything. I heard him celebrating remittances. How can you be celebrating remittances? It means your citizens are poor and they are dependent on Liberians abroad. How can you be celebrating that? It is a failure on your part as the president to be celebrating the fact that Liberians abroad sending money to Liberians in country. It means you aren't doing anything.
Okay,
that always been the case. I said we want to just brush that aside. That always been the case, and yeah, that's on you.
Mr. Cardi, let's look at 4 issues, and I know you say you don't have much time. Tuition free, 38.9 million. For this tuition free policy, renovation of other schools. Please touch on it. Also, to President, we have made mention of no political prisoner, freedom of speech in Liberia. And the last issue is the 29.7 million for the CSGL project. Could you care to talk about them briefly?
So let's talk about the quote unquote renovation of schools. How many schools have they renovated? Where are they? Even the very Tottenham High on 12th Street is yet to be renovated. So they should be telling you how many. You can't just say to us, schools have been renovated. It's vague. Where are the schools you've renovated? How much was spent to renovate those schools? Can we see proof? The thing about the State of the Nation address is not just about coming and reciting what has been written to be read. It is about providing facts, tangibles that people can see and touch. Look at the school in Maryland, for example. Just the other day, students were protesting because of leaking roof. Look across the country. Community colleges are stranded. No fund to even pay instructors, lecturers. Students at Nimba University were just protesting the other day. I posted the photos on my page. So which education is he talking about? University of Liberia. Go there now. It's not renovated. Which renovation is he talking about? Let's deal with the tuition free, for example. Let me tell you what they did. I was a student leader at the university. President Wiaki won money without consulting, without research, and just announced this knee-jerk tuition-free policy because he wanted to score political points. That was the basis of his quote-unquote pro-poor tuition-free policy. It was never studied. No assessment was done to establish the sustainability of this policy, to establish whether this policy is doable in the context of cost implications. Nothing at all, no research. He just announced.
So let's look at the issue
So
of energy.
today, let me tell you what happening today. You know what they have done? They're telling you, say, tuition free. Go and ask for the registration right now. Students are paying almost 5,000. How is that free? And before he could announce tuition free, right? Students were paying 1,500 for up to 15 credits per hour, right? So if I'm paying 1,500 before you could announce, and now I'm paying up to 5,000, how is that free for registration? So they smartly did it in a way to say, oh, not tuition and registration. They're doing the same thing at Tubman University in Maryland. They're doing the same thing at Lofa Community College in Lofa County. So what they have done smartly, they increase the fees on the side of the registration and say, okay, tuition zero. Even though we're paying for both tuition and registration before like 1,500 whole semester. Now we're paying up to 5,000. How is that free?
Okay, Mr. Student Leader, we just let you at least 2 minutes on these topics because we have other people who would like to come on too. So let's look at the issue of the energy, electricity in Liberia. 29.7 million pump into that.
No. The thing about access to energy or electricity, it is not just about installation, right? It also requires transmission and distribution, right? You can't just install something and say people have access to electricity. The last time I checked, I think less than 10% of the populace have access to electricity. So access to electricity does not just stop to installing few wires and poles, right? The most important thing about access to electricity is transmission and distribution. You should be able to transmit the current and the people should be able to receive it. How many persons just in Monrovia? Let's take Monrovia as a sample or a case study, right? How many persons in Monrovia have access to electricity?
At least this time around, we're not seeing the issue of people requesting people to take water to the hydro as compared to last term. So let's look at that and let's talk about the challenges, if there are, in making sure that these things are affordable.
Yeah, we appreciate the fact that our partners, our international partners, are trying to intervene. We appreciate that fact. And I think there has been...
Philip Francois, you are watching. If you want to, you have a contrary view. The link is right there. You can just click the link. We'll give you the opportunity to speak. Those of you out there, if you want to, you can do that. We will give you the opportunity as well. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I think our partners are doing pretty well in terms of installing some equipment to produce some megawatts, and we commend that, I must admit. However, the challenges in the sector overweigh the very little gains that have been made. So we have to be very clear. I want to cite an instance. He talked about the fight against power theft, right? Lawmakers are stealing current. The other day, Emmanuel Nukwe, for example, right? One of his properties on the highway was linked. Right. So even you go to most of the officials' residence, right? You will notice that they are not even paying bills. So which example are you setting for the ordinary people to pay bills when you are not paying current bills, but you're talking about power theft? It's a contradiction. And I have said continuously, one of the major sectors we have to focus on is the energy sector, because no country's economy gets industrialized if you don't focus on non-stop access to electricity. Because a lot of investors look at the cost of producing power. So if the cost of producing power in your country is quite expensive, they are not going to come and invest in your country. So if you can stabilize access to electricity in your country, besides foreign direct investment companies coming, the people themselves can develop local companies. And that's how your economy can become productive and industrialized. Because somebody who doesn't have a work but has access to non-stop and stable electricity could actually do ICE business, for example, ICE. Charging of
Martin,
fools.
Martin, on this issue, I'm assuming you viewed the State of the Nation address, right?
Quite frankly, I didn't see the original text, but I
I mean, just
follow
yes.
I follow the speech.
You watch it live.
So
Yeah, I follow
yeah,
part of the
okay,
speech.
fine. I want your reaction from the cheers or the situation that occurred at the end of the address between supporters and Representative Yeke Koluba. What do you make of that and the statement from President Weah before that situation? What's your own analysis?
The first thing is when the president
That some 15,000.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
no problem. When a president has a national duty to discharge, he should do so with honesty and sincerity, as well as seriousness. The State of the Nation address is a constitutional mandate, right? You are going to address the nation through their representatives directly. So it is not a child's play to take an entire cheering squad to keep clapping. Some people are clapping, they don't even know what they were clapping for. Nathan, let's be frank. They see other people clapping.
You are not in a mind. You are not in a mind to know.
No, but you can psychologize the situation, Nathan. Nobody needs to tell you. Look at the people who were there. Look at the people that took there chanting battle cries. How is that place a place to chant battle cry? That place is for serious business. You can chant your battle cries outside of the chamber. In the chamber is for serious business. The intent of that program was for the president to go and tell us what he has done in the preceding year. Provide financial report and tell us how much we have raised as a country and how much we have spent. It's not for back.
Since in fact you listened to the entire address, what positive, from the Weah's administration first term, if there is one that you can name?
What positive?
Mm-hmm.
But I just told
you. Yeah, go ahead.
But I just told you, latest of these is the fact that our international partners are beginning to invest in the energy sector, which is good, right? But I'm also admonishing them not to just stop to installation. Transmission and distribution are also critical, right? However, a few positives, right? A few positive I can mention right now relative to how far we've come on the presidency of Weah. Number one, Lone Star Air. Number two, 1 million jobs. Number three, Coastal Highway. Number four, 7 soccer stadiums. Number 5, the Twin City on Bali Island. Those are the positives. Let them show us where are they. Invisible positives. I'm talking about invisible positives. Number 6, 2,000 housing units in West Point. Look at the thing the man did, gentlemen. The man promised West Pointers 2,000 housing units, a rehabilitation center, right? Let's use West Point case as a clear indication of how massively he has failed. We don't need to go anywhere. Let's deal with West Point because West Point gave him 98.9% of the votes. Yeah, so let's deal with West Point. Let's use West Point as a case study to analogize or draw out reasonable conclusion relative to his performance. So West Point gave him 98.9% of their votes, right? And there was a deal struck or signed, right? If we give you our votes, Mr. President, you give us 2,000 housing units, a youth center, a rehabilitation center, job opportunities for young people, coastal defense, and he promised, I think 6 other things he promised. Yeah, he promised a mini sports stadium. Right. So after almost 6 years, the man comes back, right? He rolls out a very cheap carpet, right? A very cheap green carpet on a futon ball buyer fee. And he says, this is what I have for you after almost 6 years. Where are the 2,000 housing units?
No, Martin, we could
Where's
go.
the coastal defense system?
We could go all.
Where's the rehabilitation center?
We could go all day. We could go all day with this, and we hope we can have you back. But I mean, it's good you pointed out something that you think is positive, the issue of electricity, which maybe the very West Pointers are benefiting from. But it's good to have you live from your place in your own announced as our destination.
In Pluto or Jupiter.
Yeah, but the thing is, gentlemen, I encourage Liberians to read the latest report from NEMOT. You know, NEMOT's report summed everything up, because over 200 plus premises, they may only achieve 8%. That's a massive failure. 8%, that's 8 over 100. 8 over 100. Massive failure. It's almost looking like after paying your child's tuition, we're spending thousands of United States dollars for him to attend one of the expensive kindergarten schools. He comes back with his report card and he has 8 over 100, 8%. Is that a passing mark or a failing mark? We has failed miserably. There's no question about this. It is time for him to go. His time is out, and the people will vote him out. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll provide a full analysis on his speech very soon. You know, yeah.
All right, so thank you so much, Martin, joining us from his own announced exile location. But Nathan, you listen to him. He's somebody said that you will not get anything positive out of Martin. But those some of you are commenting. If you want to, you have the opportunity. Like I said, the link is right below the live view. If you want to, just click on the link. We'll give you an opportunity to come on, and share your own feelings about President George Weah's final State of the Nation address for his first term. He said it clearly, Nathan, that he's going to be back very soon.
Indeed, but the people will decide, because, like, he said, your work speaks for you.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at what they have done, that's why he made mention at his start of his speech. He said it is time for us to redouble our effort, meaning that after 5 years, he said, redoubling our effort and complete what we started 5 years
ago. So it's like
the message is clear. They know that most of the messages they are getting, they need to step it out. And so how can they because most of the lawmakers too are going for re-election.
Yeah.
But again, it's a bad precedent, Cyrus. We only wait for election time, then we start to roll these policies, we start to redouble our effort. Our people have been suffering for 5, 6, 7 years. Now it's time to redouble our effort. Politics is deceitful. We need to prioritize the interests of our people. So 2023 election, it's
gonna be a dust kicking movement, because like right now, I mean Tuesday, you saw what the Capitol building looked like, right?
Yeah.
Seats of the legislators were empty. They could barely derive out of quorum to do the Liberian people's business. And now with this firing message from President Weah, trust me, a lot of them going to be hitting the campaign trail very soon. The Liberian people jobs, like he said, there are other bills and acts that are before them that they need to work on, making sure that the Liberian people can benefit, from his legislative agenda. But how effective are they going to be in this last sitting of the 54th legislature? That's a big question indeed.
Yes, I mean, for me, it's clear, because based on your work, then we know if you have the interest of the people. But you can sit there 5 years, then you're just about to provide these basic social services for the people. Like Martin was saying, President Weah also mentioned that West Point, on the Coastal Defense Force, a project, will receive 25 million. He mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
And also 10 million towards in Sano County. Government is doing that.
The same coastal defense.
So I just wanted to clarify that. That's one of the stuff. And also President Weah also mentioned some of the tuition.
Yeah.
Some of the places, the renovation of schools. He mentioned 2 or 3 of them, but I did not put the name down. And
I think one of them was the one he just rededicated, the King Gray Public School. Renovating that, and he said there are others that are on the way. But this was, I'm trying to cue this to the movement that stirred the Capitol building up. Let me see if I can get a playback of this. The movement that actually stirred the Capitol building.
For these 15,000 workers
one of your highest priority. I look.
I'm actually trying to find that moment because
it's almost to the end.
indeed, that was a painstaking, breathtaking moment indeed. You saw the reaction there from Representative Yeke Koluba. He was swift indeed to react to the president's statement. I think I should have it.
Show you. This tenor of care and carefulness will continue under my watch. I will always work diligently, assiduously, and passionately to justify the confidence that has been imposed in me by you. The deadly COVID-19 pandemic may have delayed, but did not derail our development agenda. During the next 5 months leading up to October this year, we will continue to accelerate, continue to build on our momentum, and continue to deliver. My fellow citizens, I will be coming to you shortly. My fellow citizens, I will be coming to you shortly to ask you to renew for a second time the mandate Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Neto, that was the moment indeed. And somebody is joining us. Aaron, let's see whether we can get Aaron on. Aaron, what's up with you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for the program.
You're welcome. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from China, Chengdu City in China, the People's Republic of
Oh,
Ni hao.
Ni hao.
my.
No, sir. So,
Chubala. Chubala.
now, Aaron, thanks for joining us from all the way there in Asia. Indeed, I'm sure you did watch the president's final message to the people of Liberia, including you that are out of Liberia.
Sure.
Let's hear you.
Let me first of all extend my thanks and appreciation to you guys for breaking the programs, live, and it is an honor, and really appreciate the level of work you have done so far in Liberia in informing the Liberian people who are not in Liberia. My appreciation of you guys. Thank you so much for that.
All right, go ahead. Let's hear. What do you make of the president's address? What key did you pick up from that?
The president's address, was nice. He spoke of issue, both from the agricultural sectors, both from the security sectors, But one of the key issues that I took from the president's message is the issue of peace. But that's the most important thing that we need to maintain. We have come a long way after the 15 years of civil war that brought us back to square one. And looking at where we have come from Manasadi 12 years to that of a 6 year. And I think the most important thing that we need to do is to maintain the peace, regardless of our political differences, regardless of the outcome of the election comes this 2023 in October. The most important thing we need to maintain is the peace. That's one of the important things they kept stressing on every time he addressed the nation. You always stress about the issue of peace. I think it is important for every Liberians to maintain the peace that we all enjoy today. He also talked about the security sector, and I think the government need to do more in strengthening the security sector. I think the government need to add budget, to see how best we can improve our security sector. He also discussed the issue about roads. I think it is very important, and I want the government to see how best they can focus, in connecting our various highway, because if we are connected, I'm very, very sure that, Liberia will be able to feed herself in terms of providing, our stable food, bringing it to the market and extending our hands to probably Sierra Leone, Guinea, and the list go on. Because we're not getting this level because our roads are not connected. So the president spoke about the issue of road, and I think they need to do more in connecting our various highways, villages and towns.
And sorry, which country are you from? Nimba?
Yeah, I hail from Nimba. The guano is from Nimba.
Yeah, that's why I know the guano, like Dr. Joseph C. Guano, the late educator. He talked extensively about rural connections in Nimba. I know you were getting off your seat to that.
Obviously, every time I spoke with people from back home, they gave me some positive news about the road project from Ganta to Seklipi, from Sanikole to Logwato, and I just want the president to continue to focus in that direction. From Seklipi, they can, continue the road projects to Maryland, Grand Gile. That would be very important, because I can remember I was back home, that was in 2020, 2021, and I visited a place around the Tapetan Belt. So my price, you could see the planting, there's no way to bring it on the road. So, it just got, stuck in a bush and it started to damage. But if we have road connectivities where people can have access to bring their goods, to town, come on, we can feed ourselves for sure.
Oh, all right, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us from all the way there in China. Enjoy yourself there. And you have any final message to Liberians watching? Maybe people from Nimba that are watching from Nimba.
Maybe in Chinese.
Oh, you want to speak to our Chinese brothers that are working in Liberia?
I just want to, caution our Liberians, to remain peaceful. We can discuss our political differences, because we don't have to be on the same side all of the time. I can come from the party, you can come from Unity Party, John Brown can come from CDC, but the most important thing that we all need to have in mind is to maintain the peace that we all enjoy today. That would be my very, very and a kind and a pure message to every Liberians. Let us maintain the peace, because if we have peace, we can have a environment that we all can live in happily, regardless of our political differences.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much, Aaron Toaguanu. Thanks for joining us. And later you listen to him.
He said something, the issue of peace.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, President say, "Wow, Eric, Eric engine need water.
Every engine need water. I don't know how many safes he
Every
took.
engine need car, so gas.
Every engine need gas or water.
Let me take my stuff too.
You gotta keep it.
So basically, election is coming. That's what President Weah said. They have invested over $100 some more $1 million, right? That's going towards different projects. So imagine that just for election, government, the President Weah has placed his government commitment to accepting the result. He came to the U.S., the United Nations Special Assembly, and when he held a meeting with
President Biden and other African leaders.
He make mention, so people hold you accountable for
what you say.
And in Africa, over 20 countries will be going to election in this. If people views are not accepted at the ballot box, it is very much dangerous. If you they're not part of society, and again, Liberia, as you know, Ormel turned over peace to the government of President Eden Justice Sharif. She too turned over power to President George Weah, and who knows who's the next president. So having peace, you and I know what we went through during the crisis. 14 years, we went backward.
Yep.
So we call that wasted years.
14
How
wasted
can we cement that peace? And if we are going to election, what are the processes in our national legislature should do, our government officials should do? We as citizens, what is our duty for us to do?
And somebody wrote here, how can let me just see this one. Steve Watson. He said, how can you enjoy peace without justice? So that's one thing to the issue of justice and the rule of law. He did touch on, a little bit, but that's a strong point indeed. How can we enjoy peace without justice? There is a need for justice in order for peace to be enjoyed.
And with a situation in Liberia, they say when you haul rope haul bush. You saw what happened with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. If people are not genuine, you cannot have peace. If people have malice, those in the court, if they are not doing the right property, the work property, then you see people don't have confidence in the justice system.
Sure.
Those who are being appointed, looking at the we call it double hands in other situation, they are not clean. How can you judge me when you are corrupt? Judges who have been appointed, they are being accused of corruption, right? They are being accused of compromising cases. But these are the same people who are being appointed at these lower courts and stuff. So the issue of integrity, that's why it's important that we come up with integrity, system like a background check to know who is Cyrus to be appointed as a judge of the civil law.
Not just Mr. President. I know they made him a friend. He would do the job, and then we saw that with the RRA. The guy who was appointed to head the RRA, just to know that he was just a mere aircraft technician or something. Different things like as such. Not putting our country on the path of getting the best of people. But indeed, after a long time sitting. People
it was actually 3 hours
3 hours 26 minutes.
It was not 26 minutes because he started 3 hours 20 some minutes, because I mean from the moment he started, like from he walking all that one into the store until he left, it could be
over 3 hours 20 minutes.
And it was the first time for President Weah to speak long like that. Usually it's around 2 hours. Even former President Salif went at least 2 hours and few minutes, 2 hours, 1 hour. But the issue is most of the things said were things that people knew
about.
Unlike some of the issues that he raised concern about, what government is about to do in terms of the roads, how many kilometers of roads they have constructed, and it's 75 kilometer or something road is in process. So these are things people want to hear.
And he made a strong reassurance on the RRA road. That road has been in the news for the contractors not being, in the right position to complete the road. There were a lot of things, but then he said that they are working on modalities to make sure that that project is achieved.
Exactly, because that road has taken lives. It's become a nightmare for people, and that's a major highway. You cannot compromise such a highway going to your only international airport. You have visitors, you have international people, because when people are coming, the first thing they want to know, what is the route, the sister lane area in the country. How many kilometers away from the airport, how many lanes that road has. So these are basic things that we need, because that also drive in investors and also drive the economy too.
Now,
so
there is this other issue, though he said it is going to happen in 2025, whether he becomes president, gets re-elected or not. This is going to happen, but it was concluded on his watch to see Liberia taking that giant step towards getting a seat at the United Nations Security Council.
Something your physical record, your physical presence. They say you want to sit at the table. You don't want to be on the menu, right? So having
though if this happened, we're going to be non-permanent, a member. But the idea you have a low voice at that level, that's one of the highest level of the United Nations, the Security Council.
Yeah. And networking is very important for any government, something they call lobbying. That's where you meet people, right? So the person who will sit there, it's not just a ceremonious job. That's where you also lobby with influential people who can help push some agenda for you, because
For
you
your
know the
country.
United Nations Security Council is the highest decision
Mhm.
body. And with that, you can also start pushing your way. So 1,000 miles begin with the
With the
first
first step.
successful step, not just the first step,
Instead of
first successful
yeah,
step.
remaining strong in that. I think that's a great feat indeed. We all pray that Liberia will achieve that. As he said, the country already got the blessings of other African countries. So that particular election is in New York in 2025. So whether George Weah is still president or whoever becomes president after October, that's a huge one for Liberia. Again, he put it, it was all on his watch and his personal intervention, in making sure the guy, making sure that we can achieve this. But those of you who've been there, thanks for following us. Thanks for being there. Whether you watch us on our Facebook, YouTube, or you downloaded the app, the KMTV app, to watch and follow everything Liberia on KMTV, Liberia's number one. Also, there were other people who were sharing, not just sharing, but restreaming you know our live feed from the Capitol building. There were a lot of networks. It shows that KMTV remains the giant. We remain number one, the mother of online broadcast in Liberia. Before we go, just 10 minutes away, Mulbach Kessley is trying to join us. We see whether we can take Mulbach just before we go in the next 10 minutes. If not, we will wrap it up. But he's trying to join us in and out, and let's see whether he comes through correctly. But those of you who watch, you are our strong friends and foes out there. Thanks for your time. You spend your data, you spend your career, you spend your time. Some of you left your jobs just to sit and watch the address to the nation by President Weah, and you always follow us. So we say thanks for being there.
And one big thing that will stir up the international community, when he made mention, he repeatedly said, America interest is first over
Mhm.
any other person.
Yep.
So for me, that
But
statement
that's
was,
no argument because America
yes,
is
but that statement
Liberia's
was too
greatest ally.
harsh. It was too harsh. It was too rhetorical at that moment. There's something called diplomatic tone. Diplomatic tone. You should know how to call your message. If you say, if you're vaccine, even if not here, the next person who will come, America, we understand it, but on on the diplomatic scene, these are big countries, France or China.
And he said it clearly. He told
You
that to France.
cannot say that. Looking at it professionally, diplomatically, I'm not talking about being the president. You can say anything you want to say, talk to
Mhm.
Liberians, but on the international scene, it puts other big country who, and he said, if you are not a friend of America, you are not our friend. So he throwing jabs at Russia. he throwing jabs, China and America on, we call it cow poo friendship and stuff. But you cannot make, that was one of the blunder I felt President Weah made, to say that statement boldly like that. We should know how to craft our diplomatic tone sometimes, and that message was for him to report, to our legislature.
So if you can just unmute yourself, mobile, we take you quickly. We're almost leaving. Welcome, Kessley.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen. It's good to be here today with you. I mean, this is on short notice.
Yeah, so you
I know
just
you politician,
make
but you politician, you scholar.
it's just that you call a pastor to preach verse, you enter the church, but then you gotta play the closing prayer. You are there, you
No,
there.
but I needed to prepare more for this sermon though.
Yeah, so we will come back with this. It's just that we all the time, President. We are all our afternoon time. We already
Yeah.
told it that they gotta pay for it.
Hours.
They pay for our hours. But yeah, you listen to the president quickly. Let's hear you, Moba.
So okay, first of all, I want to state that I didn't feel the honesty in the president's speech today. Liberians actually wanted to hear more of what the government would do differently in the next year. which is the icing on Mr. Weah's cake. But unfortunately, he did not largely leave the path he's been on since he became president. He made a lot of promises, and according to the recent demo report, where he just fulfilled 8% of the promises he made to Liberians, he clearly is not good at fulfilling promises. So he did not deliver what the Liberian people expected, and he placed a lot of responsibilities on the citizens, responsibilities that are purely his, and things he needs to be responsible for, and not the ordinary Liberian people. So I mean, he failed to lead. In essence, I know he spoke a lot and he talked very long, but he did not address the very important issues that the people needed him to address. So, if we take, for example, talking about the elections, his concern with the election was primarily targeted at the opposition. So, he wants to blame the opposition for, say, attempting to ensure that the election is not peaceful. But if you look at the history of our elections since he became president, his party is largely responsible for most of the violence that have happened during election nearing time. So we should be more afraid of the CDC going to elections than we should be of the opposition. And the caution he sent out to Liberian youth to not be used to perpetrate violence because they were not around when we had the civil crisis. I mean, that's a message for citizens. I expected Mr. Weah to say such a thing at the CDC headquarters. He needed to take Jefferson Koji and the other CDC zealots and tell them these things to let them know how important it is for us to have a peaceful country and that they should not get themselves involved into activities that would derail our peace. Again, Mr. Weah talked briefly about women and girls' rights, particularly talking about the passage of laws intended to protect our women and girls. I mean, the president is performing dismally when it comes to protecting the rights of our ladies. The president does not give our women the opportunity to have their voices heard in our politics as much as he called himself the feminine in chief. If you can recall, in 2020, we went to the senatorial election and not a single lady was featured by the CDC. So how can Mr. Weah now come today and tell us that he believes in women and he wants to give women the opportunity to contribute to national development, and the list goes
But
on and on,
so
when
so
he has
in,
not
in
shown that he's capable of giving women the opportunity to lead in Liberia. So we talk about
he's
the economy.
recommitting he's recommitting himself to making sure, according to him, that more women are on the ballots in 2023.
So he's probably trying to promise us again that he will put women on the ballot. But again, 8% out of 100% is not a good record for someone who makes promises. So Mr. Weah is unable to fulfill his promises. He has proven that time and time and again with the many promises he's made. So he's been promising a lot of things since he became president. He promised to make sure we have better roads in Liberia. To date, look at the number of roads he's paved in Liberia since he became president. The numbers are very minimal compared to what he promised to give our people. We still have very terrible road conditions throughout the country. You cannot easily go to the southeast. Just in the recent rainy season, people were not going to the southeast because of impassable roads. I mean, that's the man again promising to give our women the opportunity to sit at the political seat. Is that going to happen? We wait to see it. Mr. Weah doesn't fulfill his promises. Okay, but again, let's look at something he did fundamentally that was for me unacceptable. Mr. Weah appeared to not have concise data on what he was presenting to the people. At the beginning of his speech, while addressing the legislature, he said that this current legislature has passed almost 200 acts. I mean, you can't come deliver a State of the Nation address and be telling us almost 200. You should give us exact figures. So, I mean, that was terrible for a president to do. You have to come and give us exact numbers. You don't leave our heads scratching. So the president doesn't even know the total number of legislations that this current legislature passed for his government. That's unacceptable.
So now,
And
like I said, Mobile, we will look at this speech in detail. You, every other person who wants to speak on it, and we hope that we can come back and have a detailed face of maybe with other
Wednesday.
people from the other side, unlike your side, that we can look at. Maybe we can throw that up on Wednesday. But if you had to point at one positive, I mean one positive on him, we are in his first term, what would you say?
one positive on Ovia's first term
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that he knows how to speak to his base, to his supporters. I mean, that's the only positive thing I see from Mr. Ovia. He speaks the language of his people, the language his people understand and what they want him to say. I mean, even though he really doesn't care what the general Liberian society wants to see, he tries to make sure his message reaches his base. I mean, that's the only positive thing I see from Mr. Ovia.
Moba Keseli, thank you for joining us, my man. We hope to have you back in a very very soon a future to join us. Let's go much more deeper into the State of the Nation address, which Mr. Weah said I will not be here final. He's coming back
No,
next
that's the
January.
fallacy of the initial address. That I can't
Okay.
But
All right,
thank
well,
you. It's been good here. I look forward to your invitation, and I'm available at any time. Thank you very
okay,
much.
my brother. Thank you so kindly.
At least Mobile is now one of the political prisoners. He has free speech.
And he's killing himself in backstage. But that's it right there. On this note, we wrap it up on this edition of Diaspora Talk. President George Weah, sixth and final State of the Nation address in his first term. He made it clear that he's coming back to the Liberian people, noting that his record will speak for him. He's running on his record, according to him. But thanks to all of you for following us. Thanks to our wonderful team, CEO Rana Jackson, manager Josiah Weah, or in Monrovia, the guys, Emmanuel Do Jaine, Gilman Toure, and Amos Mumbo, all of the guys that work on making sure you see all of the footages from Monrovia today. Nathan Charles and I have been in the background just waiting. We were kept on our edges for a long time. Making sure that we could just have this movement. We had to get some the president said every card the other water or gas. Yeah, so we had to do that. But thanks for being the Liberians. You are wonderful people. That's why we always happy to have you following us. Until Wednesday, when we are here, Wednesday afternoon with a fresh edition of Diaspora Talk. Let's leave you with this one by President George Weah climaxing his speech earlier today.
When the issues of Liberia
Thank you. Thank you. My fellow citizens, I will be coming to you shortly to ask you to renew for a second time the mandate that you gave me 6 years ago. A mandate to continue the good work we have delivered. A mandate for continuity and stability. A mandate for transformation. A mandate for development and growth. A mandate for consolidation. A mandate to secure peace. A peace that we, with your help, have perfectly preserved. This second mandate, the second mandate, will enable us to consolidate the gains we have made in these last few years and ramp up the trajectory of growth, development, and prosperity for Liberia. Regardless of your political affiliation, your religious belief, or your ethnic origins, I ask you to join us as we together wrestle back the years lost to civil conflict and war. and restored our country to its rightful place in the community of nations, to a higher place of peace and prosperity for all. We can do this, and we must all do it together. We will be coming to meet you in your towns, in your villages, in your district, in your clans, in your cities. So together we can build a strong partnership for Liberia's progress. But as you can see, Thank you. But as you can see from all that has been said today, we have done our part in delivering on most of the promises we made to you, while preserving the nation peace and nurturing its democratic values. We are on an irreversible trajectory of sustainable growth that will necessarily and inevitably lead us to progress as a nation and prosperity as a people.
When the issues of Liberia hit the news,
what is it that we, the Liberian people, want?
The Liberian communities in the diasporas are not left out. That's why Diaspora's Talk is back on your screens on Kmtv.
In fact, the United Party is not cohesive.
be it social, political, economic, and other issues affecting Liberia and the diaspora Liberian communities.
I did not expect to even make it to Hollywood.
Join Cyrus McGee and Nathan Charles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on Kmtv, Facebook, and YouTube.
I want to be arrested in the midst of my people.
As they discuss the issues, blending the voices from Liberia and the diaspora Liberian communities.
The Liberian Business Association in the Diaspora should be used as a vehicle for economic development in Liberia because no country can develop without a diaspora impact.
For sponsorship, call cell numbers 612-806-5896, 816-433-3979, or better still, email us at usakmtv@gmail.com.
Diaspora Talk, from this house.